We begin with a major diplomatic breakthrough with North Korea. A secret meeting just revealed to the world. CIA Director Mike Pompeo met with Kim Jong Un over Easter weekend, paving the way for a potential summit between President Trump and the dictator. The president spoke about the trip and his Secretary of State nominee at Mar-a-Lago earlier.
I think Mike Pompeo is extraordinary. He was #1 at West Point. He was top at Harvard. He's a great gentleman. I think he'll go down as truly a great Secretary of State. By the way, he just left North Korea, had a great meeting with Kim Jong Un, and got along with him really well, really great. And he's that kind of a guy. He's very smart, but he gets along with people. So I think that Mike will be in good shape. We'll see what happens. You know, a lot of people are predicting other things, but I have a feeling it's going to work out very well, and I think our country really needs him. He's going to be a great leader.
So this is pretty high level, Kimberly. James Clapper, President Obama's top intel chief, went over there, and Madeleine Albright went over there. But to have Pompeo go over there in a secret mission is pretty big. How does the Trump administration not get suckered into a deal like previous administrations, the Bush administration, the Clinton administration, and make that same mistake?
Yeah, I think by virtue of the representation that was sent, I think Pompeo is somebody who has, I'm going to speak to the nature or quality of the past administration, but I'm saying as it relates to Pompeo, the experience he has, with the CIA, position he's in now, I think it's a wise choice. And it also shows the United States is willing to engage in diplomatic lines of discourse to be able to solve complex geopolitical problems. This should be a positive for everybody because he's saying, you know what, we're taking this seriously. We're putting focus and attention on it. We're being open-minded. We want to talk to them and work out something in a good way that is going to be beneficial not just to the United States and North Korea, South Korea, China, but globally the world at large. Put some positivity into it. Hopefully he's going to be able to make some inroads. You can't do anything unless you try. And he's trying pretty hard, and he's negotiating from a position of strength, unlike 100%. Maybe some other previous administrations. Fear of fire and fury.
That's right. Dana, some of the other Democrats on the Senate Intel Committee are not so happy with Mike Pompeo. They may vote against him, and the White House is saying, please don't undercut him during this kind of overture like this. And we have some sound of some Democrats explaining their position. Let's listen.
Director Pompeo has shown a disdain for diplomacy, putting military action at a higher priority. I think he sets a poor example in terms of American values. So I will strongly oppose his nomination.
I do expect for someone who is the nominee to be the Secretary of State, when he speaks with the committee leadership and when he was asked specific questions about North Korea, to share some insights about such a visit.
I think the diplomat that represents this country as Secretary of State, especially under this president, has to be somebody who really has a strong orientation toward diplomacy and not somebody who's going to exacerbate the president's worst tendencies.
Dana?
It takes a lot to get me worked up, but I am worked up about this. How is it that Blumenthal, the senator from New Jersey, can say, or Connecticut, that that Pompeo has a disdain for diplomacy when he spent his Easter weekend flying to North Korea to sit down and actually talk to Kim Jong Un, which I believe is diplomacy? The president also benefits from this being the beginning of his administration when this is happening. For example, Madeleine Albright, when she went, it was at the very end, like within the last, they only had 2 months left. And President Clinton had a choice. He could work on Middle East peace or North Korea. He chose Middle East peace. That deal fell apart. And later tells Madeleine Albright, I wish I would have gone and done the North Korea deal. So things happen president to president. I feel like the Democrats are picking a fight that they do not want to have. I don't think they will win it. It is not sustainable to have this argument. The other thing about Senator Menendez being frustrated that Pompeo didn't tell them, he's saying, well, he wasn't forthcoming in his testimony. Well, yeah, because he had a secret meeting to go to North Korea, and he is the CIA director. They confirmed him a year ago. And to assume that he can't be CIA director, he can't be State Department head, but he can run the CIA in 9 months, is preposterous to me. I think that this is a really bad example for the United States to set for the world. You don't have to like Mike Pompeo, but you should confirm him and let him do his job.
Absolutely.
And shouldn't, Greg, the Democrats be applauding the administration for this type of diplomatic overture?
Of course not. How can they possibly handle this kind of achievement from somebody that they despise? We're going to have to truck in thousands of therapy llamas from Peru to deal with the mental breakdown that's going to happen with all of the haters who want so badly for Trump to fail, even if his success could mean an incredible transformation in world safety. I mean, if you denuclearize North Korea, if they unite, if this happens, you're going to have to make some room on Mount Rushmore.
Get the chisel out.
It's interesting. I mean, it must be hard for CNN and MSNBC because they're too busy covering a consensual transactional sex act that happened years ago. I mean, imagine if CNN now were around when the Berlin Wall fell, they would be covering a Love Boat reunion. That is how stupid this is. And by the way, I think it was just a week ago or so, we were talking about how Comey, said that he compared Trump to a mafia boss, and the media was like, "Oh, this is terrible." I think we realized that a mafia boss beats a massage therapist. It's not a bad thing to have somebody who talks tough, who reset the table, and it comes down to a system that we have noticed. Trump enters. He kind of throws the table over, says everything's changed now. He takes the hardest position, and then you have to walk towards him. And they understand that language. You cannot understand ambiguous intellectual paralysis of analysis language, but you can understand that. And I think that's why this is working.
So Greg's saying he came in and he pulls out a TPP. He puts the security deal on the table with the South Koreans. He slaps sanctions on the Chinese, war games with our allies like Japan and South Korea. And it looks like things are moving in the right direction. Do you give the president any credit for any action he's taken in the Pacific?
I was waiting for you to tell me what moved in the right direction.
I mean, Juan, this is a historic summit.
Oh,
they haven't spoken
That's
in,
potentially, but I
think 60 or 70 years, and that we're on the eve of a historic summit between North and South.
Well, let me just say, it's not like, when you've heard this around the table, it's not like the first time people have gone over there. You said right in the beginning that not only had Clapper gone, but that our Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, had gone. And
don't forget Rodman.
I won't. But the problem is that the North Koreans always say, "Oh yeah, well, we'll do something. We'll come along."
Right.
And maybe they say, "Oh, we'll stop selling this stuff." Right. We'll stop selling it to the Pakistanis and the people in the Middle East, or we'll think about maybe not making so much. But they never say we'll give up our current arsenal of weapons.
You're right.
So the question for Pompeo, and I disagree with Dana pretty strongly on this, because it seems to me Pompeo has been a guy that says, "Oh yeah, first strike, go right ahead," right? He disagrees with diplomacy when it comes not only to the climate deal, but to the Iranian deal.
He's going to go to war over the climate deal?
I don't know. Climate change one?
No, you spoke about him as someone. You're saying, well, he went to North Korea over the Easter holiday, so of course he believes in diplomacy. To the contrary, he has a history of undermining diplomatic deals. And so I think that for people in the Senate, they're saying, wait a second, that's going to be your Secretary of State with
what deal?
What's been undermined?
The Iran deal, the climate deal. But to say that he is going to somehow now come back.
A deal isn't good just because it's a deal, Juan. Sometimes deals are bad and you have to get out of it.
Well, I don't think those are bad deals, so let me say that up front. But I would say this.
A lot of other Americans do.
But it doesn't matter because it is American policy. We signed the deal as the American people. That was our government. And so you can say, oh, well, I show up and I'm a great deal maker, so I'm going to bluster my way through. I think a lot of people say, so exactly what did Pompeo get from his visit? What is the news out of that visit? Did he get some concession? Or is it the case that we're giving everything to North Korea in terms of...
Okay, wait. No, I got to point the hypocrisy here. Yeah. On one side, he's saying Pompeo's mean for being harsh on the climate deal, and now he's being soft on North Korea. Number one, the climate deal, everybody now agrees it was a lousy deal. It cost $100 trillion over a century. Now, it doesn't mean that there isn't a deal. Yes, look at the statistics, Ron. I have looked at it. You have not. I am right. You are wrong. Settle it. All right. What my point is this, is that he actually went there, right? Because the Trump presidency is regarded as hard. not soft. So it changes the whole way the atmosphere of it. It's not like they're going to I don't think they're going to push Trump around, because I think they've seen him bomb Syria twice.
You know what,
There's red lines that won't be crossed.
You know what surprises me is the conservative point of view. Dick Cheney, Don Rumsfeld, said to Colin Powell, who came in after Albright, and said, I would like to see if we can get some negotiations going. Dick Cheney, Don Rumsfeld said, no, we're not playing ball with this guy. He just wants a meeting with the president, and he'll use it to convince his people that nuclear devices have brought the U.S. to the table with North Korea.
That was true.
And it's true today.
But the calculus has changed now that they have nuclear weapons.
They had nuclear weapons then.
Well, they have nuclear weapons because we've secured a number of bad deals with them, and they've cheated on everyone. What's different this time is because we believe the sanctions have brought them to their knees, and we've got serious gunships encircling them. The country's starving, and there's actually good progress being made between the North and the South that we haven't seen in decades. So let's just hold out hope. Maybe something positive.
Can I say, don't forget that John Bolton is very skeptical about the North Koreans.
Right.
Like he was very critical of Condoleezza Rice, who was trying to also make a deal with our allies and North Korea at the end of the administration. So he's now on board at the National Security Council, and I think that if that's the concern, there at least is somebody at the table with a voice saying, be careful.
And just to say really quickly, the president didn't undermine these deals. He's the commander-in-chief, and he has to evaluate them and decide what's in the best interest of the United States and what is not. And he made a calculation that the Iran deal was not, and that the Paris Climate Change Accord deal was not as well. And then he acted prudently to withdraw from those.